are you? Minister of propaganda?
I am sure by now that you guys have heard that Karen Elaine Johnson, aka Whoopi Goldberg, has been suspended for 2 weeks from The View over her comments the other day about the Holocaust. I'm sure that you guys have heard that Karen Elaine Johnson, aka Whoopi Goldberg's real name is Karen Elaine Johnson. Kind of hilarious considering the fact that nobody took the time to actually research that. And people are just now finding out about this, even though I knew about this years ago when I researched Whoopi Goldberg about her politics and whatnot to discover why she is so ignorant and why she is the way she is, like most other lefties and leftist celebrities. I also find it funny that her name is actually Karen, given the fact that she lectures us every day on The View about race, and she lectures us on how bad us conservatives are. But yet, these takes that she has, like she had the other day, which by the way is complete ignorance, shows you exactly that it isn't just her that doesn't know this. It's really a lot of people on the left, these woke people, these people who believe in tokenization, that they're really not very bright and they never have been bright. They operate mostly on irrationality and emotion, and they never have exactly been smart. Now, really quick, I'm not going to beat Whoopi Goldberg up too much over her full statement because even though she's apologized, and I know this is going to be unpopular, I'm not calling for her to be fired because free speech is something that we are allowed to have in this country, and I don't think you should be fired over speech. I just don't think you should be, even though I'm a Christian and I donate, and I think I donate to Israel. And at the same time, I'm very, very pro-Israel. I don't think she should be fired. Yes, I know this is going to be an unpopular take, but there needs to be an actual explanation in full context. Now, was what she said wrong? Yes, it was wrong. Was it stupid? Yes. Was it ignorant? Yes. And in this video, I will explain to you why it is that it was wrong, it was stupid, it was ignorant. However, when you actually go and look at the full context of the actual quote itself, the actual comment, which by the way, I can't show the full thing in this video or else they will levy a copyright strike on me because ABC is laying copyright strikes on anybody who uses their properties or their intellectual properties. I can't provide the full thing in the actual quote. Now, I will be playing the part that, quite frankly, angered and incensed a lot of people, which, by the way, was stupid, and quite frankly, she should have received the suspension, but I don't think she should receive the firing because this was mostly just pure ignorance of what she said. Now, guys, before we dive into this, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys share this video. I'm about 7 subscribers away from actually being at 500 subscribers. That way I can let you guys know what's going on through the messenger board. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're not subscribed to Commander 33, I will leave a link in the comment section for you guys to go check that channel out or the description box. And let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, let's go ahead and roll the part that angered and incensed other people. Let's go ahead and roll this.
This is white people doing it to white people.
Yeah.
Now, really quick, guys. I was not actually angered. I just wasn't surprised that she would be that friggin' stupid. You see, the whole controversy started over a book in Tennessee being some book called Mouse, where they're using mice in the book to kind of illustrate what happened during the Holocaust. And they were saying that people were complaining about the nudity, but not the actual Holocaust itself. And then Joy Behar chips in. Of course, we all know Joy Behar and how much of a bright light of actual intellectualism that she is. God, one of the stupidest people on TV. I mean, really quick. Don't you find it funny that the two angriest women on television are named Whoopi, Karen, and Joy? Don't you guys find that's absolutely hilarious that there is what their names are? Let's get back on topic. So she was saying, so you're not protesting, you're protesting the nudity, but not what was going on during the Holocaust. You see, the Holocaust is a period in time in history that people need to reflect on. But there are also other periods in time in history that people need to reflect on as well, especially considering the Holocaust, which, by the way, I will dive into. Why don't we take a look at Stalin's 5-year plan? Why don't we take a look at the Maoist revolution? And let's take a look at all the millions of people who died during that. Let's also take a look at the millions of people who died during Stalin's purge. Let's take a look at all the bad activities. Let's take a look at it all because really in a lot of ways they're all extensions of themselves. Or at least I've always viewed it that way. So yes, the Holocaust, and by the way, Whoopi, I would highly advise you go speak to anybody of any type of Jewish descent who lives in New York City, which by the way, you have a Holocaust Museum right down the road from where The View is filmed at. You also have a Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. I have been there personally. You have Holocaust museums all across the country. I highly suggest you go speak to someone who is Jewish or a Holocaust survivor and ask them what it was about. They will more than likely tell you that it was about race because it actually was. Now, this is going to provide a little bit of historical context. Now, I'm not going to get too detailed here. I'm just going to give you the basic bare bones with it to kind of illustrate my point, because it doesn't require a lot of technicalities. It really does not. You see, long before World War II started, at the end of World War I, fascism began to take place in Italy. This, of course, was Benito Mussolini and Giovanni Gentili. When people call other people right-wing fascists, they are actually showing themselves to not be very, very educated. You see, fascism just came from the left. So Giovanni Gentili was a leftist. National Socialism was an extension of that. And you see, fascism, which, by the way, I'm just going to let this explanation kind of come to you guys right here. I got this from Tick History. Very, very good channel. Very much informed person here who actually runs that channel and gives the commentary. I'm going to let him explain to you why it was that National Socialism or Nazism was in fact about race. Let's go ahead and roll this.
The two. This was known as the National Socialist Third Way. I also argue that fascism was a version of socialism based on nationality rather than race, and make the case that National Socialism was not fascism. They are similar in that they both embrace socialism on a national level, and that the fascists also paint themselves as somewhere between capitalism and Marxism in a fascist third way, but they are different because Mussolini and other fascists didn't believe in the racial theory of history and don't base their ideology on race. The National Socialists, on the other hand, base their ideology on the race rather than the nationality. The race is the nation and the nation is the race. Racism is fundamental to National Socialist ideology and is not fundamental to fascism, although some fascists are racists, just like some Marxists are racist as well. Stalin as an example.
The source, by the way, for that actual context, for that actual video, actually came from Mein Kampf itself, My Struggle, which is something that Adolf Hitler wrote, a book that he wrote while he was actually in prison after the beer house incident, which occurred, I think, in 1923. Somebody in the comments double check me on that one right there. I'm kind of free-flowing right now. So essentially what the National Socialists wanted to do was they wanted to purge the Jews from society. By the way, it wasn't just 6 million Jews that were killed during the Holocaust. There's also an additional 3 to 6 million that we don't know of as far as actual bodies themselves. People who died in the labor camps, undesirables, people who couldn't work, people who were old, people who were sick, people who were mentally handicapped, people who were deemed to be crazy. Also, this also included gypsies and homosexuals as well. So anytime I hear a homosexual or somebody in the LGBTQ movement say we prefer Marxism or we prefer socialism to what we have today, I kind of laugh at them because, you see, in communistic and socialistic societies back in those days, if you were homosexual, you were put to death, especially in the Middle East, which, by the way, is Sharia law. You were thrown off a building, you were beheaded, so I don't want to hear you guys say anything. As a matter of fact, I kind of laugh at you at the amount of knowledge that you don't have. You see what I'm saying? So, in fact, National Socialism, Nazism itself, and what the Holocaust was in fact based upon race. You see, Hitler believed in the Aryan race. He believed that the Aryans were superior to everyone. The Übermarken, the Superman, that type of thing there. And he viewed the Jews as very, very much subhuman. He viewed them as a subhuman race. The same way that guy, not Mubarak, but the leader who came in after Mubarak in Egypt, called the Jews pigs. He called them basically just any type of nasty name in the book you could think of, because the Jews have always been viewed as a subhuman race. So yes, in fact, Holocaust was indeed based upon race. Now, why is Whoopi Goldberg wrong for this? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the full quote, because you see, I showed you the comment earlier of what she said, but we oftentimes forget the rest of what she said. Let's go ahead and roll this.
It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
Yes, it was about man hating man. Yes, it was about man being practically a jerk to man. It was, in fact, about that, but it was also about racism itself. You see, I have always believed that racism and evil were typically linked, and you're probably going to say, well, damn, dude, you're on the right. That right is a big, big misconception of the right itself. You see, us guys on the right, we get labeled as racist all the time. We get labeled as this. We get labeled as Nazis. We've kind of sort of gotten to the point to where even though we know what you're saying is not true about us, we've kind of gotten to the point to where it's like, you know what, dude, they're going to call you this crap anyway, so just don't even dispute it or anything because this is all they've got. They've used racism, they've used the racism argument so much, which, by the way, is not true, to the point to where it has no effect anymore. After a while, you're firing blanks. Instead of actual real bullets, you're firing blanks. I mean, look, dude, there's an old English proverb, okay? I want you to consider this right here. If you're in a mudslinging contest and your opponent is throwing mud at you, remember, after a while, they're going to have less ground to stand on, which means their arguments are going to be completely moot. By the way, when that mud dries, you're going to be standing up in a much, much taller position than they are. Do you guys see what I'm saying? So, yes, these arguments they throw at us saying, well, this is racist, this, that, and the other, they kind of lose their weight after a while because it's really truly all they got, even though they're not speaking the truth. Whoopi Goldberg's comment, which she said was about man's inability to like other men, that's basically what it was. I'm kind of free-flowing here. That, in context, actually sounds good, but where she screwed up at was when she said it was mostly whites on white. Okay, Whoopi, do you want to mention the black-on-black crime in Chicago? Do you care to mention the black-on-black crime in New York City? Do you care to mention the black-on-black crime? Do you care to mention the Chinese and their attacks on the Uyghur Muslims, how they are holding them hostage? Do you care to mention that? Or how about the threat that Israel is under every day from Lebanon, Iran, from Syria, from Egypt, from all the other nations that surround it? You see, Muslims don't view the Israelis as anything more than a subhuman race as well. So yes, Whoopi, the Holocaust was in fact about race. And one more thing that I got to add to this right here too. Europe, for the most part, is mostly white. It was mostly white then. However, Europe has got a lot more nationalities. You see, here in the United States, we have white, black, Hispanic, but we typically tend to come from descents. We typically tend to be descendants of other cultures. Do you see what I'm saying? Whereas in Europe, which, by the way, is where most of American culture comes from, you've got Swedes, you've got the Nordics as a whole, you've got the Finns, you've got the Norwegians, you've got the Danes, you've got the Germans, the Austrians, the Slavs, etc., etc., etc. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have more nationalities, and therefore you have more overall ethnicities. Also, something else too, Europe at one time, and still very much is, it's still a very, very large melting pot. So to suggest that that the Holocaust was white on white is completely ignorant. You guys see what I'm saying? So, I don't think Whoopi Goldberg should be fired, even though she has threatened to quit. I don't think she should be fired. However, it was a very, very stupid comment, and I do think she did deserve her suspension. I mean, guys, at the end of the day, we do have that right to be stupid, even though we shouldn't be stupid, but there's no law against being stupid, and of course, there's no law against being ignorant. However, ignorance can be a tool used for evil, because if you're ignorant, like Whoopi Goldberg is, and you say this comment, that doesn't mean that some other ignorant people who are watching at home don't suddenly side with you and don't suddenly agree with you, and therefore their ignorance leads them to make very, very bad choices and very, very bad decisions, and also could sort of kind of stamp on their internal racism. You see, guys, people who are woke, this whole wokeness thing, is in fact tokenism, which is in fact racism itself. Joe Biden right now is wanting to nominate a black Supreme Court justice, that's a woman, to the Supreme Court because Stephen Breyer is retiring. But is she qualified? I mean, is she actually qualified? I mean, I distinctly remember before Trump picked Amy Coney Barrett, he was about to pick Barbara Lagoa. My question is that even though the Barbara Lagoa is a Hispanic woman, my question is she qualified? We don't know that. He ultimately ended up deciding on Amy Coney Barrett. Do you see what I'm saying? This tokenism, this whole, it's just white people. Because you see, Whoopi Goldberg's got a very, very simplistic view about whiteness. You see, like I said before, go back to Europe. White people come from different portions of Europe. Europe has got different ethnicities of people that are actually white. You see, their whiteness, their argument for whiteness is contained really just here to the United States. Do you see what I'm saying? They think, well, I guess that white people in the United States are the same as white people in Europe. No, this is not true. This is not accurate at all. Do you guys see what I am saying? So, yes, it was a very, very ignorant, very, very stupid take. It was a very, very dumb take, and it quite frankly could be destructive. But no, I don't think Whoopi should be fired. Karen, I don't think Karen should be fired. Even though I do find it hilarious that we find out that it's now been known that her name is Karen, even though I knew 2 or 3 years ago that it was. Guys, I just figured I'd make this video and throw this take out there and explain to you guys why Whoopi Goldberg is just a flat-out pinhead. Guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, and share. Make sure you guys sign off in the comment section, and I will see you guys later.
Guten Tag, Herr Jones. Mein Herr. Weg. Tickets, please. Was?
No ticket.